welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with those movers and shakers, those film and TV makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, film editors, sound mixers, VFX gurus, stunt coordinators, stunt men and women over the years, composers, you name it. And I'm talking to them. And I'm very, very excited. This was a big weekend in television with 2 nights of the Creative Arts Emmy Awards, and I am beyond thrilled for some of my favorite artisans who picked up plenty of hardware for their excellence. Most notably, stunt coordinator John Koyama and the stunt team of The Boys. 2 Emmys for The Boys. They are the best of the best in stunts on television, and those Emmys are more than well deserved. Earlier this year, I spoke in depth with John about his work as supervising stunt coordinator and stunt work in general. And it was like old home week. I have a great affection for the stuntmen and women in this business. Some of my dearest friends of 40 years ago were old Hollywood stuntmen, and they really gave me a leg up. And I will always be beholden to some of them. But they gave me a great introduction into second unit and stunts and all. So I have always held stuntmen close to my heart. So I'm thrilled for John and the stunt team of The Boys. But my big faves, the Soundies at Formosa, they grabbed a slew of Emmys for their work on multiple programs, including the breakout comedy smash of the season, The Studio, which cleaned up with nine trophies on Saturday. So a big congrats to George Haddad. And although we didn't speak specifically on The Studio, that was brought up in another one of our interviews earlier this year. And it's up on the website, behindthelensonline.net. So check it out. So I'm just tickled for Formosa. And a big yay to all of them. Saturday Night Live, SNL 50 picked up a handful of gold, and a few other scattered trophies for various episodes of SNL. The Penguin, as to be expected, with those prosthetics, with makeup, contemporary costume, hair. We didn't even know it was Colin Farrell in there. So kudos to the team with the Penguin. President Obama nabbed his 3rd Emmy for outstanding narration of the documentary Our Oceans. And okay, I'm sorry, Alan Tudyk, that you did not win in this category, but how can you be upset when Julie Andrews picked up an Emmy Award for Best Character Voiceover for her work on Bridgerton? Who doesn't love Julie Andrews? And a big congrats to my friend, writer John Duarte and the rest of the team at Jeopardy, which won the Emmy for Outstanding Game Show. I suspect I may be picking up some congratulatory drink tabs at our local watering hole for that big win. But we aren't finished with the Emmys yet. Primetime Emmys will be held on September 14th. So, curious to see what happens with those. I was more excited, though, for these past 2 nights of the Creative Arts Emmys. And of course, the Film Awards season is heating up as TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, kicked off this weekend. And it's running through September 14th. A lot of big premieres this weekend with more to come, all of which are anticipated to be Oscar contenders, not the least of which is Nuremberg, which I can't wait to see. That is one of my top 3 most anticipated films of 2025, starring Russell Crowe and Rami Malek. So I already have my screening. That's coming up. So I'm chomping at the bit to see that one. But while everyone is partying up in Toronto for upcoming films or across Los Angeles with shiny Emmy statues, there are plenty of wonderful indie films currently opening across the country and around the globe. So let's talk about some of those. And as you know, took last week off for the Labor Day holiday. I debated. I almost did a show for Labor Day. But I thought, nah, we'll make it a long weekend. But I'm back now with two fabulous interviews about two wonderful films, thanks to writer-director MIKI Magasiva and actor Anapela, and I know I'm going to screw her name up, Polataivao, who bring us the emotional, joyous, heart-filled, uplifting, and inspirational box of tissues necessary film Tina. A beautiful film set and shot in New Zealand and infused with the Samoan and Maori culture. And then director CHAD HARTIGAN moves out of his heavier, more dramatic comfort zone and into something lighter, fun, and heartfelt that tackles some important themes with the Threesome. But let's start talking about those, starting with Tina and my exclusive interview with MIKI Magasiva and Anapela Polataivao. Written and directed by MIKI and starring Anapela, Antonia Robinson, Zac O'Meagher, Beulah Koale, Dalip Sondhi, Nicole Whippy, and Jamie Irvine, among others. Tina is an inspiring drama, a light-hearted, rhythmic tearjerker. And it's the story of a Samoan teacher named Mareta Percival, who is played by Anapela, who is struggling after the death of her daughter in the Christchurch earthquakes. And I'm sure all of you remember, because those earthquakes in New Zealand, in Christchurch, a number of years ago, they just rocked the world. Devastating. In the film, Mareta reluctantly takes on the role of a substitute teacher at an elite, wealthy private school, and is surprised to find these well-to-do children crying out for guidance, inspiration, and love. And using the symphony of her culture to empower her students, she forms a choir, bringing them together while unexpectedly rediscovering her own passion for being a teacher and a mother. And this is where the film's title, Tina, comes from. In New Zealand, in the Kiwi culture, Samoan, Maori, Tina is a word, an all-encompassing word for a mother. Such as you hear people talk about, down south, you've got aunties all over the place, auntie this, auntie that. Even me growing up in suburban Philadelphia, close family members. It was always Aunt Doris, Uncle Fred, Uncle Bobby. It's Tina, for the motherly woman who looks after the kids in the neighborhood, the kids in the classroom. And it's a wonderful thing. And to see this unfold on screen and to learn this about the culture it's just the commonality across all cultures. It truly brings us all together. It was a joy to speak with MIKI and Anapela and discuss the making of Tina, with everything from casting to composing to cinematography to cultural authenticity, as we travel on this journey of not only Mareta dealing with her grief over the loss of her daughter, along with newfound challenges that she has to face, but also the journeys of her students and giving voice to the hearts of each and every one. It's a wonderful interview, as Anapela, renowned in New Zealand and beyond for her work on stage, as well as directing theater. She's also an actor, a singer. She is beyond accomplished. And it's a shame she's done, quote-unquote, Hollywood films, but not where she is the lead actor and her talents are really showcased. But she gives insight into the character of Mareta and the importance of bringing the Samoan and Maori culture a voice. At the same time, Miki digs into the technical aspects of this story and bringing it to life as his first narrative feature film. This truly belies the work of a first-time feature filmmaker. So, sit back, relax, and there's some slight audio issues because we did this via Zoom. I was doing audio only, and they were in a room, and the speaker and the microphones were too far away, so they got a little echoey. So, had to make some sound adjustments, but I hope you can bear with that. Well, hello, Miki and Anapela. I am so thrilled to be speaking with the two of you today.
Awesome. Thrilled to talk to you too, Debbie. How's it going?
It is going, but I want you to know I am very upset that nobody told me to have an entire roll of paper towels and a box of tissues by my side when I watch this film.
Yeah, apologies, there's no warning, but yeah, that's well needed.
My goodness. This is an incredible film, an incredible story, but overall it is heart-filled. It is joyous. It is inspirational. It is filled with hope. And despite the sadness that we have, you can't appreciate the joy without understanding the sadness. The journey that Mareta goes on and combating grief, and not just for her, but when you look at each of the students that you showcase so beautifully and the life challenges that they're facing, just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Job so well done to both of you. You know,
appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.
I'm curious where the idea for this story came from, because it's a wonderful story. Now, granted, you've got the Christchurch earthquake, which a global tragedy. Everybody knows that. And there are so many choir competitions around the world. I think everybody will be able to relate to the choir competition just based on Whoopi Goldberg's film Sister Act and Sister Act 2. But I'm curious where the genesis of Tina came from.
Well, look, you're right. There are a lot of choir competitions, and down here in New Zealand, we have a very big high school competition. It's held every year, and it's been going for a long time. And so we see lots of young inspirational choirs come through, and this film is inspired by a performance in 2014 that a choir did. The choir is called Correlation Choir. They're amazing. They're in our film as well. And that was what started everything off. I saw that on a YouTube clip, was blown away, deeply moved and emotional by that performance, and thought it would make a great movie. So, yeah, here we are 8 years later, having turned it into a film.
I am just mesmerized with the heart that you bring to this film, Anapela. As Miss Percival, you are the kind of teacher that every student hopes to have. And I'm curious how much of you is in this character, because you have a distinguished background. You've got theater. You've directed theater. You're an acting teacher or tutor. So how much of you is in Miss Percival?
I think it's kind of hard to not embody someone like Mareta, because the given circumstances of this character is that she's a teacher, she's a mother. Although I haven't experienced that level of grief in terms of losing a daughter, and she's an islander, brought up in the church. So I suppose you can say, apart from the grief, a lot of her is me, especially in terms of dealing or conducting myself in front of students, or sort of and my way of being as well. And that's all been informed and sort of kind of in, you know, since birth really, because when you're born a Samoan, you know, you're born with very strong mum, you know, the matriarch of our families. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. I was just saying this before too. There are parts of Mareta which I was saying before, it's something that I couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
With Mareta, she's an expert at how to be polite and as well as just execute people. But so she's got that double-edged sword that she does very well, and she treads really well. I mean, they are the traits I really admire. One day I hope I can also do that as well.
I think you're pretty good at it.
Well, I have to say, some of my favorite moments in the film are Mareta going toe-to-toe with Jamie Irvine's Peter. I have to commend you, Miki. You did a brilliant job casting him because he really comes across as a jackass. And I love the confrontations that Mareta has with him. It just...
Yeah, I mean, they are fun moments of the film, actually. Jamie, who is the complete opposite to who he plays, and just a wonderful, wonderful actor. And I commend his performance on it because he represents a lot of teachers that I have seen myself. Actually, like a version of it, both in their perspective, but also in their delivery. And Jamie just plays it so pitches it so perfectly well, and these guys have such fun bouts going back and forth. It's fun to watch, even after writing it. It's just still fun to watch these two duke it out.
It really is. Another element that's so fun to watch is the journey that not only Mareta goes on, but several of the students in particular, Sophie, Anthony Bull. Beautiful performances by Antonia Robinson and Zac O'Meagher. I love watching the emotional progression and the connective tissue that is forming throughout. How much out of order did you film this, Miki? Or did you have the luxury of going in relative chronological order so that we're seeing the actual emotion build?
Oh, no, it is shot out of order. You're right. Thank you for saying that. We do have a wonderful, wonderful student cast led by Antonia, who are just all amazing. You know, I hadn't worked with any of them before, actually, and so it's just such a huge surprise to be able to watch all the casting down, discover this talent, and then work with them, and just every single step of the way, they're improving and making, you know, the script and my words so much better than you envisaged. And so, yeah, we're just super proud of every single one of them. And you're right. We've watched the film and we've taken the film around, and we've had lots of reactions from tons and tons of people who have said that they have their favourite student characters and have commended all of them for their performances. So just super proud of every single one of them.
How difficult was it to cast, especially the students? Because you need students who can act and who can sing and perform. And sometimes you can get one, but you can't get the other. So I'm curious about the challenges you faced in casting for the core choir, for the Saint Assisi choir.
Yeah, well, that's right. It is a hard casting those roles. But we got really lucky. We just happened to stumble across these wonderful young, talented actors, and especially with Antonia. She was a key casting for us. She played a big role. It's a very emotional role, but as you've just mentioned, she also had to have vocal chops, and she needed to be musically inclined as well. And then for some reason, the universe produced Antonia, and she embodied all of those qualities that we were after. She was the very first person that I saw when we were casting that role, And right from that moment, I was like, we have our girl, and was blown away by her. And then just to go on to work with her and discover that she's just so musically talented and a wonderful actress, just gave us such hope for the film. And then slotting in the slots right next to her, discovering Zac and Talia and Oscar and Taylor all complemented each other. And when we got them into a room in our shortlist and they started playing off each other and they started working together, there was just something magical that started to happen and come out of it. And, you know, sometimes when you're doing these things, you just get lucky because you have the talent there available. You don't have to do anything really. You have to guide them along the way, but they bring all the talent themselves. So, yes, just super lucky.
You struck gold here, Miki. You struck gold.
Oh. Don't I know it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, Anapela, it's not often that we see the Samoan culture, the Maori culture. We don't see enough of it on screen, especially not in film, especially not in Western films, Hollywood films. So it's very exciting to see a film made, number one, by somebody other than Taika that features some of the culture. So how important was it to you to see this blending of cultures, to see the Samoan culture blending with the arrogant upper crust white culture, and how that spoke to you? Because that I just love that so much, that we see this culture incorporated so beautifully and so strongly here.
Yeah, I think as an actor, you get a script, you read the script, and always the thing for me is the questions are, what can I contribute to the story, to uplift, to support it, and especially when it comes through, like, it's a Samoan character or something that's very specific to me in terms of culture and identity. And you're always looking for the moments where you go, that doesn't feel right, oh, that's probably not going to be, you know. But in this one, it's pretty much as it is, you know, as Miki will talk to his own experiences in the school sector around racism. And I hadn't really experienced that because I back in my school days, because I was pretty much with every person that was just like me, so we never had that other sort of experience. It wasn't until I, you know, as adult, moved on and sort of like came out of school that those things sort of, you know, that kind of experience came to the fore. So in terms of what that means to me, it's just normal. You know what I mean? Like, the script is strong enough, and there was nothing in there that made me go, oh, well, you know, maybe this is not right, maybe this needs to be sort of looked at again. I don't think there was anything like that. It was just, this is the story, and this is how it's going to be told from an absolute honest point of view. Mm-hmm. So, and you only, you know, for me, it's like you rock up, you do your work and your job, and this one in particular was special because obviously it's something that's centered around the Pacific experience here in Aotearoa. So, but you don't actually anticipate sort of like what's going to come next. You kind of like, you do your work, you do it to the best of your ability, and then you kind of move on and you do your other bits, you know, your other work. But what's come to light in terms of experience, in terms of response, has been really overwhelming, as you know, all of us can attest to, because it's like I did not imagine that this was going to be the, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was going to be, it's like, yes, people are going to look at it and go, oh, wow, you know, and also be proud, because we talk a lot about making our people proud, our parents proud, that all their hard work, you know, sort of like bringing us here to a new country for a new life, that was not in vain, that was not wasted, you know, that we did something. But, so the response has been really affirming, it has been encouraging, and it's made you go, yeah, we're proud that we did that, because it's not about us, you know, essentially it's not, you know, we're of service to our people and to our stories, and we rock up to do these things to, in the hopes that the future generation get a better shot than we did at things like this. It's important, yeah.
And I have to know, did you have any input into your costumes? Because your costumes are stunning. They are so beautiful, a breath of fresh air, just like Mareta is a breath of fresh air into St. Francis Assisi.
Yes. These guys are laughing. I must have had like 100 different, we call them polatasis. No, I did not have, and these it all came from Miki. That was, you speak to it.
They're beautiful.
No, it's cool. I mean, she looks stunning in it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we don't get the opportunity to use those costumes ever in our work. So
the thing is this: it's like I remember, Bella, her mother. So like a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, her mum, when she was working as a teacher at Christchurch, every day she rocks up like that to her school. And it's not just her. It's a whole generation of women that rocked up to their and taught in their polatasis in their Samoan attire, and very proud of it. Flowers in the hair.
You looked gorgeous in every single one. And the colors, it was life personified on screen. Every time you walked in one of those outfits, Anapela, just absolutely gorgeous. I've got to ask, Miki, you, music is such a big part of this film. You bring in Sebastian Pan as your composer. You have, I hear, classical music influences in the score. We've got traditional Samoan music happening. We've even got some more contemporary versions, more traditional versions of contemporary music happening. What were you looking for in terms of your specific lyric songs and blending that with the score that Sebastian put together? Because the music in every aspect is absolutely stunning. It's an auditory experience to hear it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's an important part of the movie. It is a choir movie. Our background, being Samoan, raised in choir, raised in church, is a part of who we are, so it was important to get that right. But it is also tied directly into the themes of the film and what happens in the story. So the music had to be set right from the beginning, and it's just fun to have really great, old music that you've listened to, that you grew up listening to, using that and using that to tell the story as well. It's not just placed over the top of something at the very end of it. It was lovely to be able to think about the music, play with the music right from the beginning, right when I was writing the script and listening to the music and making sure that every single song suited the time and place in the story where we were at, where the character was at. So lots of music in there, like you rightly say, lots of Samoan music and also music from New Zealand, Aotearoa here that I was able to play with. There's lots of things like, tradition and religious value systems and hierarchy and character that we play with, and that's just fun for me. That's what it is to be a storyteller. It's using all of the tools that you have available to you, and music is a really key, important one. It's a part of the themes of this film and the story. So yeah, it was just a really great opportunity to look and play with music to really, because I think it is what people have found emotional, is the emotional heart of this film. Yes, the characters and what they go through it, but they feel it through the music.
Absolutely.
To be able to tie that in with the characters, like with Sophie's character and Mareta's character, both being musicians and both connecting to each other through music rather than through dialogue, all of that stuff is just really fun.
Well, and the music, I've got to ask you, Miki, because you've got some beautiful montages edited within this film. Your editor, Luke Hay, did a beautiful job. But I'm curious if those montages did you already have the music in place? Because it melds so beautifully. The cadence and pacing of the visual montages just match up perfectly with the music we're hearing at the moment. So I'm curious if you had temp music that you used, or if Luke had the luxury of having the actual music when he was cutting a lot of those montages.
Well, Luke had all of the music in there. All of the montage music was in the script. But what I will say is that it took a long time to get right, and Luke worked very hard to make sure he got that right. Thank you for mentioning Luke. He's a wonderful editor, and he's just one of those editors who's sometimes you have a musical editor come in and redo the music and shorten music and make it fit and piece it together so that it's all flowing, even though you've cut it into different sections. Luke did all of that on his own.
Wow.
And he took 2 or 3 passes at getting it right. He was determined to get it right, and it's some of the sequences that we are most proud of because we worked really hard to try and get them right, because they're a great opportunity to not only just quickly tell a story through a short sequence of time, but actually prop a story up using the music in a way where it facilitates a montage to tell the story, not just to give lots of information over. So I'm really proud of those montages, those moments, just because Luke worked so hard at them.
Well, I'm a person that loves montages as long as they're not an overkill and a substitute for the whole film. There are some directors, as I'm sure you have seen over your career, where it's just one montage after another and there's like nothing in between. If I want that, I'll just watch a string of music videos. So that really, it's beautifully done, beautifully paced. The whole film, the pacing is very well done. And it really gives us a chance to appreciate Andrew McGeorge's work as your cinematographer with some of the lighting and the extreme close-ups, the ECUs that you have. You use them so judiciously and so carefully so that they really pack a punch when we see them. Just visually stunning there.
I could talk to you forever. I mean, you've touched on a lot of things that we haven't talked about before, but it's great that people bring it up because it means that you're all seeing a lot of the work that has gone into the film. Andrew McGeorge did a wonderful job, and we had long conversations about how the film would look, how we would represent it, and also taking a step back and not being too complicated and let the story just play out on its own. And one of the things I'm proud of in the edit is that we fought for the length to keep it as long as it is, so we can just make sure that the story was told right and not just get it down so that it could fit into cinema slots. It was important to be able to tell the story properly and allow the shots that you're talking about, allow them to breathe and allow them to tell Mareta's story and prop up her story. So, it's great to be able to have that time to sit on those shots, to serve the function of what we as storytellers had intended them to be, which is always to facilitate your main character, not just to show off how cool your composition is or your photography or lighting is. It's actually to make sure that it's servicing the story.
Well, you can't. One thing that people have to understand is you cannot hurry the grief process. That cannot be hurried, and that's the journey. That's one of the journeys that we're on here with Mareta, is her grief process. So you need that time. You need to have that breath happening every now and again so that you really can feel it. Because this is a film you don't just watch. This is a film you feel. And that's one of the things that really sets it apart out there in the cinema landscape today. Now, I'm curious because Anapela How much rehearsal time did it take? Because you're there tinkling the ivories, on a piano. Does that come naturally to you, or did Miki force you, learn this?
The great thing about cinema is the editing process. And the piano, I was given some time to learn. Which one was it? It was the Crowded House one, wasn't it?
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I did get to a point in terms of the practicing of it. And then, I remember playing it to Miki, and he looked at me like, I thought you said you'd rehearsed this. I said, what do you mean? I have rehearsed it. This is the best that I can get it. But in terms of all the piano stuff, a lot of that was not, that was just kind of me acting my way through it.
Well, and then kudos to Luke for doing a beautiful edit job so we never know the difference.
Yay!
I do have one last question for each of you. For Anapela, what did you learn about yourself and take away from the making of Tina that you can now take forward into your future projects? And similarly for you, Miki, your first narrative feature film under your belt. What did you learn about yourself as a filmmaker that you can now incorporate into your future projects?
I think it would have to do with trust and let go and don't worry about it and just be there and be present. Yes. Sometimes sometimes you want stuff, to hurry up and land within you, like an understanding or something. But in terms of this process, lots of it was letting go, actually. Letting go.
Yeah, I can add to that. I mean, it is learning that I learned to just trust myself, trust the instinct, and then fighting for that. Because a lot of the choices that we had to fight for have actually ended up being people's favorite moments and have made the film. So, and I can trust myself because I don't believe I come from a negative place. I believe I come from a bright, positive place, and so that's sort of what audiences, I feel like, are after. So. I'm just going to tell financiers to shut up a bit more is what I'm going to do going forward.
The one big rule you should have, Miki, is that in every film that you do, have Anapela in it.
Yeah, that's it. I need that stare. I need that mum stare.
See?
In all the boardroom meetings.
Make you the cups of tea.
You've got to have her in all of your films. You could be the next pairing. You could be the next pairing like Gary Marshall and Hector Elizondo. Gary always called Hector his good luck charm and had him written into contracts that he had to be in the films. Yes. You can do that with Anapela. So make him do that, Anapela. I think you can force that hand.
Okay, sure.
We're going to do the Samoan Kill Bill.
Look at that.
Action film.
Yep.
Oh. You two are fantastic. This is an incredible film. It teaches us and shows us things that are so lost in society today. The least of which is dealing with grief. But you teach us about having respect and manners and humility and the power of all of that and the guidance that we need from our elders to carry forward into the future. Just on every level, a beautiful, beautiful job. And I thank both of you for taking time to talk with me about the film today. This has been a real treat. And I hope I get to speak with you both again in the future.
Wow.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you go have a great rest of your day, evening, and just enjoy all the love you're going to get with the release of Tina.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Miki Magasiva and Anapela Polataivao. One day I'll get it right saying her last name. Talking about Tina. And Tina opened in theaters across the U.S. on Friday, September 5th. You can see it now. And if you're one of the lucky ones who was in Guam, American Samoa, or Hawaii, the film opened on August the 29th. And it's still playing in theaters in those three regions as well. But now we're going to shift some gears with director CHAD HARTIGAN's The Threesome. And I do mean threesome, literally and figuratively. I'm sure some of you know Chad's prior work. This is Martin Bonner, Morris from America. Both are heavier dramas. Wanting to change things up a bit, with The Threesome, Chad does just that, moving into lighter fare. Directed by Chad, written by Ethan Ogilvy, The Threesome stars as our threesome, a flawlessly funny and heartfelt Zoe Deutsch, Jonah Hauer-King, who many of you may know at best as the prince in The Little Mermaid live action, and Ruby Cruz, along with some wonderful supporting performances by Jabuki Yang White and Josh Segura, among others. As you can imagine, an impulsive night leads to a wild threesome between Olivia, played by Zoe, Connor, played by Jonah, and Jenny, played by Ruby, leaving both women facing unexpected consequences and thrusting all three into the raw and beautifully messy chaos of adulthood. I don't know if I would go so far as to say beautifully messy chaos. But I digress. Chad is nothing if not a purposeful and thoughtful filmmaker and storyteller, as you'll hear in this interview. Discussing casting and some surprise behind-the-scenes anecdotes on that, we highlight its authentic emotional range and tonal shifts. The script, received during the pandemic, was developed over 4 years, with key castings to include Zoe, Jonah, and Ruby. Interesting are the themes presented within the film, which never get preachy, and they very easily could. There's a very well-rounded and balanced presentation within the script, and kudos to Ethan for that. He did a beautiful job with the script, and then Chad did a beautiful job of carrying it through into the film, the making of the film itself, as he was putting it on film. But as you're going to hear, Chad emphasizes the importance of character-driven storytelling and the film's visual style, which aim to capture the intimacy and complexity of the characters' relationships, he achieves that thanks to some beautiful lighting and lensing by cinematographer Sing Hao Yam. I have to tell you, there's some award-worthy lensing happening here. Quite a few money shots in this film, and Sing does a great job with the camera and avoiding coverage shots. And you're going to hear Chad talk about how well planned and thought out everything was, the meticulous nature of the blocking, the framing, and working with an intimacy coordinator, no less, for one particular sequence that kicks off the film. Chad even digs into changing aspect ratios within this film and his reasons for it. I think one of the only filmmakers I've ever spoken with who changes aspect ratios within a film is Wes Anderson. So it's very interesting to hear Chad talk about this and his reasons for it. We're going to talk about some specific scenes within the film. So a couple things might sound a little spoilery, but they're not spoilers. They just sound a little spoilery without being spoilers. And with these specific scenes, one big one is in the third act, and how he pulled it off, I still am amazed. But he really delves into his thought processes for his decisions and his directorial vision. Working with editor Autumn Dea, the editing process proved more than challenging for Chad, with the final cut being reduced from the first cut of 2 hours and 40 minutes to Chad's director's cut of 2 hours and 22 minutes, ultimately getting down to the hour and 40 minutes that is on screen. That is some editing there, folks. And some of you filmmakers out there may be surprised to hear Chad talk about balancing character depth with audience appeal, which was a new experience for him. He knew what he wanted to do, but after some test screenings and feedback that he got, he had to make a decision. Does he stick to his guns, or does he make some changes in keeping with the audience reaction? So, and I think for a lot of filmmakers out there, I know a lot of you I've spoken with over the years, you do stand fast to your guns and you stick with what your vision and what you want, or you go with the producer's vision. But it's really interesting to have a director talk about balancing the character depth, how he sees it, and what the audience wants to see. So I think you're going to enjoy hearing what Chad's thoughts on that. So take a listen to Chad Hartigan talking the Threesome. Hey, Chad.
Hello.
Well, this is an interesting film. I had so much fun watching it. You've got a roller coaster of authentic emotions. You have tonal shifts that work. So often when you get emotional tonal shifts, things feel disjointed. They don't feel that here. And you have navigated the idea of all different mindsets for one of the big issues here, and that is reproductive choices. You don't shove anything down anyone's face. Everybody's opinion is as valid as the other. So that's really interesting from a scripting standpoint, and then with the way you pulled it off with your casting. Just so impressed. I'm curious how this script came to you.
Well, I had a meeting with the producers, which is common. You just have general meetings with producers often, and you talk about what kind of movies you want to make. And I mentioned that I was looking for something light-hearted after making a film that was pretty heavy and sad. And so they said, "Oh, we got something. We'll send it to you." And they gave me the title and the synopsis, and I was skeptical. But I read it, and probably like you and most people who watch it, sort of experienced it in a way where it just started to surprise me, where it was going and how it was getting there. And every time I thought I knew what might happen next, something different happened. And I just felt like the writing was so strong because every time characters had an argument, I could completely understand why one person was upset, and I could completely understand why the other person was defensive. And I think that's such a difficult thing to do in writing. So I thought it was perfect. It was in a genre that I had been interested in trying to do, but it still felt very grounded and character focused, and played to what I felt my strengths were, and afforded the opportunity to probably get to work with great actors, which ended up being the case. And it just kind of checked all the right boxes for me. I also got the script right at the beginning of lockdown in the pandemic, and so all I was watching was stuff that made me feel good and revisiting old classics, and I felt like this could be an opportunity to make something like the movie equivalent of a warm blanket that maybe years down the line someone else could throw on when they need to feel good.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that from a lot of filmmakers that got something at the beginning of lockdown. And it's typically the filmmakers like yourself who wanted to watch films that made them feel good. And this definitely makes you feel good. And you said something that's very important about the arguments, the fights. Everybody is having disagreements with one another, but nothing ever feels forced. It's all very natural, and it's something that I think everybody can relate to. Arguments about different things. Oh, you left. Oh, you didn't bring coffee. Oh, well, you look like, some snarky comments, which nobody does better than Zoe.
Yeah.
But it's all so real and so natural, and that's one of the big standouts in here that makes the emotional range work, makes the tonal shifts work. Now, once you had this script, you get it all worked out, pre-production, your casting. What led you to this cast? You've got your 3 main principals, but overall you've got 8 or 9 main characters in this ensemble. But Zoe, of course, is a no-brainer for the character of Olivia. Jonah is an interesting choice for Connor, but he works. He's very emotionally grounding. And he plays well off of Zoe's character of Olivia and Ruby's character of Jenny. But Ruby is an interesting casting choice for the character of Jenny. I initially thought, oh, she's going to get pushed to the side in this story. It's going to be the Olivia and Connor story. Not the case. This is truly a romantic triangle.
Yeah. Well, as you say, no-brainer with Zoe, except that it was a long development process. As I said, I got the script in COVID, and we didn't shoot it until 2024, so that's 4 years.
Right.
And initially, I had Zoe on my list for Jenny. I thought she would be a good Jenny. And then, as the years went on, and we were trying to put it together, we had a different cast attached at one point, and then that didn't work out. She messaged me. She just messaged me on Instagram, because we had met before and stayed in touch. And she said that she had read it and she really wanted to talk about it. And I was like, oh, which part? And she said Olivia. And I thought that was such an Olivia thing to do, to slide into my DMs and stake a claim for the part, that that sort of almost immediately recalibrated my mind of thinking her from a Jenny to an Olivia. And I've always been a fan, so that was a no-brainer. She came on board. And then Jonah, I just saw a picture of him on IMDb and thought, oh, well, he's handsome, and started watching some interviews of him, which there weren't many, because at this point, The Little Mermaid hadn't even come out yet. And I just got a feeling, and so I asked to have a meeting with him, and they set up a meeting, and we Zoomed, but he was filming a Holocaust show, so he was emaciated and bald, and but so charming, and so the fact that he didn't look like what you would imagine the character looked like didn't even matter. I got such a great feeling from that meeting that I cast him off of that. And even if I had seen his work, I eventually did see Little Mermaid and watch some other stuff. I always put much more stock in the meeting than watching watching him in Little Mermaid isn't really going to tell me what I need to know about if he's going to be good as Connor in the threesome. But talking to him really does. So that's how I got him. And then Ruby was the last piece, and it was tricky because you need 3 individually great actors, but you also need them to have good chemistry with each other, and you also need them to have believable friction with each other. So I've never had to cast quite so complicated a web before. But as soon as I saw Bottoms and Ruby jumps off the screen in Bottoms, that I wanted to meet her, and luckily she read it and really liked it and really was drawn to Jenny. And so after meeting her, that was also kind of a no-brainer. And I did like that it was such a different role from what she had done in Bottoms, that I thought it was exciting for the people like me who were new fans of her to see her do something completely different. And then, you never really know until you're there if that chemistry is going to work. But thankfully, as soon as we got there and were rehearsing, it was pretty apparent that they were going to be a good trio.
They truly are. And it's interesting that you originally thought of Zoe as Jenny, because the minute you said that, I could see Zoe as Jenny, but trying to insert herself more into this triangle. And that's something that Ruby doesn't do with Jenny. But I can easily see how Zoe could have tackled that role as well.
That's because Zoe can do anything.
Yeah, I know.
She's really
She is amazing, amazing. Besides your great casting here and the emotional beats that you hit, and the reproductive choices that are interwoven through this entire film, I've got to look at your visuals, and oh my God, you're a cinematographer, Sing How Yam. Talk about some beautiful visuals, Chad. You have some money shots in here, gorgeous lensing. At your 31-minute mark, there's a money shot. We get into another scene where Olivia and Connor are driving, and this beautiful little montage that you have happening. And it's nighttime, and the sun is setting. It's beyond dusk, and there's just a golden glow through the back window of the car. Just so visually striking, and it's also and very metaphoric at the same time.
Well, thank you. That was, of course, the intentional, and one of the things that I felt a duty and a responsibility to was I wanted to treat the rom-com with the same respect and reverence that you would treat any other genre of movie. And I felt like the 80s and 90s, when Mike Nichols and Cameron Crowe and Nora Ephron were making them with the best DPs in the world, that's how they felt. And so I don't think there's any excuse in taking the craft in this genre lightly. So Sing and I really tried our hardest to have the camera be a supporting player in the hijinks and in the storytelling, and also to try to capture Little Rock as beautifully as we could. And so I'm very happy to hear you say that played for you.
It really does, and I like the overall visual grammar that you have, that the two of you have developed. You aren't stuck in just a mid-two shot. I like how you vary things up, and you very easily can hone in on a closer two shot on, say, Olivia and Connor, and then immediately just pull back and bring Jenny into the frame, or bring a parent into the frame. So very adept at that shift without moving into coverage shots.
Yeah, that was tricky because as I said, it was our intention and our design to come in with very specific shot blocking, and then in a few cases have it be unbroken shots. Like there's one in the mirror that lasts about 4 minutes long, and there's another example in the bar where the camera is just dollying back and forth as they're playing darts. And that was on day 2, and it was so tricky to get the timing of it right that I started to have a kind of a mini panic attack. And I'm like, oh, is this not the right approach? And now I'm kind of seeing why so many comedies are shot with boring coverage, because then you can just make sure that you're really getting the jokes and you're really capturing the rhythm that you need. And if you're not, you can always edit it together into the rhythm that you need. But coming with shots that are so designed and still trying to capture the exact rhythm of comedy was harder than I thought. But I mean, thankfully I got over the panic attack and stayed the course of, trying to make it work within our shot designs. But yeah, it was definitely more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Well, your tenacity paid off, Chad, because it works beautifully. And I have found over the many decades, 4 decades as a film critic, and 60 plus decades watching films, that quite often when you do those coverage shots, it takes you out of the emotional momentum that you've just built up. You don't do that. You bring another player into that momentum without doing a cut with coverage, and it works so beautifully here, so that we feel the connective tissue amongst the triumvirate of the three. We don't lose sight of it.
I was just going to say that was really the genesis of that mirror shot, was knowing that it's when he says "I love you" for the first time, and I just knew I couldn't have a cut between him cutting her off saying "I love you" and her reaction. I needed to see them both at the same exact time, but I didn't want it to be in profile. So how do you make it so that you're looking both of them dead in the eye for that moment? And that was the driving factor of that shot. Because anytime you do put a cut in there, you do risk sort of breaking up the moment.
Yeah, and with this film, you don't want to do that, because the whole idea is a threesome, and not just a threesome in the literal sense of the word, but a threesome throughout the film. So
Yes.
it's very important to hold on to that, and you do that beautifully. I do have to commend you on the hospital scene in the third act. You had everybody there. You had everybody
Yeah.
there working in a hospital hallway. You've got doorways structuring you, hallways, you've got rooms full of people. How challenging was that? And was it as challenging as one of our initial opening scenes of the threesome?
The hospital was more challenging, for sure. The threesome was actually pretty breezy because that was the one sequence that they made sure to afford a lot of time in prep to figure out, and we had our intimacy coordinator with us, and so we really blocked and figured that one out in advance. So then the shoot was pretty breezy. The hospital, as you said, 8 characters, all there, and then there's like a scuffle, and I had to know exactly what each of the 8 characters is doing in the scuffle and how I'm going to shoot each of the 8 characters in the scuffle. So it was a full day and a half for what's probably 30 seconds in the movie. Very challenging, and getting the stunts aspect of it, even though every little thing had to be figured out, and we did all of that on the day. At the same time, though, it was so much fun because I've never had a day shooting like that where you have 8 great cast members all in the same room, and it felt kind of like a play for a second where at the beginning of the day everybody comes and we all run through the lines, and that felt really exciting. So it was definitely the most challenging, but also in some ways the most fun.
Well, and the fun really plays. The fun really plays, and revelations that come out. So all of your hard work paid off with that scene. And something else that's very interesting about our initial threesome that puts everything into motion, that's the one time in the film where you and Singh utilize extreme close-ups. It's really the only time we have ECUs, and they're so tight that everything melds into one almost. It's really so beautifully done. It's an elegant close-up dance with everything melting into one. And it's just so tastefully and beautifully shot. Just wonderful, Chad.
I mean, we did want the movie overall to feel intimate, and so one of the earliest decisions was we're going to shoot it in 1:8:5. I think too many modern comedies, especially on streaming services, shoot in 2:3:5 for no reason other than they think it feels more cinematic, and then the frames are wasted. There's 60% dead air in the frames. And this one was a movie about people getting close to each other, and so we wanted the frames to be tighter. And I was watching a extra feature on one of my Blu-rays of a Joseph von Sternberg movie, and he had a quote where he said, if you're doing a close-up, everything else in the frame is either adding to the portrait or subtracting from the portrait. So he's got to be very conscious and aware of what is in your frames. And so I really took that to heart too. And so that's, I think, part of the reason why in that threesome sequence, some like their faces just all start forming together to create the frame.
Yeah, just beautifully, beautifully done. Now, you have all this great footage, you have these great performances, and then you put it into the hands of your editor, into Autumn's hands. How difficult and challenging was the edit on the threesome? Because you've got emotional beats to hit, you've got some dramatic moments, you've got the comedic beats to hit. Oh, how was this editing process for you?
It was definitely challenging and fun. Autumn I had never worked with before, but she was great, and I think she approached her editing not as if it was necessarily a comedy, and making sure first and foremost that the character beats felt real and the emotional beats felt real, and then the comedy also obviously was important, but I think it would have been edited a different way if we had made comedy the number one priority. So it was great working with her. The biggest challenge was that our assembly cut was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and then the director's cut, which is everything that I liked, was 2 hours and 22 minutes. And so we had to just cut and cut and cut to get it into a manageable length. And we had to lose a lot of stuff that I really liked and think in some ways would even deepen the experience. But nobody wants to see a 2 hour and 20-minute rom-com, not even me.
I've got one last question for you, Chad. Because you did venture into this lighter territory to get you out of the funk of lockdown, what did you, and it is much lighter than your prior work, what did you, as a filmmaker, learn about yourself that you can take forward into your future projects?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is that my previous films have all been also very character-driven, but more, art house oriented, I guess you could say. And I've always tried to make the style of the movie and the filmmaking come from the character's perspective. And this movie was the first time that I was challenged on that notion. And very specifically, there's a scene where it is revealed that Jenny is also pregnant. And so when I was cutting that scene together, I thought that this is a low point for Connor. This is a really dramatic and scary and low point for him. So the score that we had in there was really dramatic. And then when we started showing it to audiences as tests, you could tell that was such an exciting scene for them because oh boy, here we go. Now the movie's kicking into another gear. 2 girls pregnant, and it was sort of fulfilling the promise of the premise in a way that was exciting and fun. So for the first time ever, I had to be okay, I think I'm going to make a filmmaking executive decision for the audience's sake, and I'm going to side with them and score this scene in a more fun way rather than taking the side of the character. So that's something that I did for the first time in a minor scale, and I can see as maybe I go into even more mainstream, broadly appealing films having to do more of and thinking of the audience more. So that was one lesson.
Well, I have to say, Keegan's score is beautiful. Keegan DeWitt did a beautiful job with the score, and it was very unexpected. And for the very reason that you just went with the audience, what would benefit the audience.
Good, yeah.
So, I mean, just on every level, Chad, this works so beautifully. Job so well done. I can't wait to see what you bring us next.
Thank you very much.
And that was Chad Hartigan talking about The Threesome. And as I said, The Threesome is in theaters right now. So, 2 great films for you to take a look at if you feel like getting out to the theater. I know the temperature is going to cool down on the West Coast, so you don't need the free air conditioning in the theater. But it's still a nice place to go. But check out Tina and The Threesome. Both are excellent, and I think you are going to enjoy both of them. Now, next week, we're talking with Alan Unger about his new film, London Calling, starring Josh Duhamel. I love the film. I love Alan's work. He and Josh have worked together before. And although knowing his work, I had never met or spoken with Alan before this film. And I have to tell you, I think he's terrific. And we will be speaking on other films in the future, I guarantee you. Plus, you're going to hear what Vincent Grashaw has to say about his new film, Bang Bang. It's a really intense character study about a former boxer. And it stars Tim Blake Nelson. And I have to say, this performance by Tim is revelatory and quite possibly the best performance of his career. It is beyond award worthy. So I'm excited for you to hear what Alan and Vincent have to say about their films next week. But until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.